degrading, humiliating, hopeless, unimaginable, demoralizing, miserable, and totally isolated. This depicts the life of many physically challenged people across Nigeria. Heaving his lifeless limbs, this young man rolls his way into the synagogue Church of All Nations. This is his only form of movement.
Hello, tell us your name.
Idris. I don't get any work. I'm a beggar. If I beg, the money I don't get now I go use job. I don't have anywhere where they stay, and I for my under bridge I they stay. I there they live. Because I hear people they talk and say, man of God, they help people for here. Then I be beggar. That's why I come. Me too, may they help me.
Living under the bridge and completely unable to take care of himself, Idris explains that he is a beggar. He has painfully managed to reach the Synagogue Church of All Nations. After hearing about the charitable works at the church, he is hoping that there may be some way out of his pitiful situation.
Carried awkwardly by two men, this man comes to the Synagogue Church of All Nations, totally helpless and dependent on the goodwill of those around him.
When we give, we receive more of whatever we give.
This woman drags herself along the road of the Synagogue Church of All Nations on all fours. She is without any other means of mobility, socially rejected and impoverished by her feeble state.
Yet another gentleman arrives, hauled into the auditorium by two helpers. Both his legs have been amputated. It is clear to see the physical strain and difficulty it takes just to move him a short distance.
Worse still, there are those who have resorted to the use of mere wheelbarrows to move themselves around. This young man is just one example among thousands.
Yanzu ana na zo ne in samu abin da Allah ya hore mu in ci abinci in dinga zama na gida in kama harkokina. Wanda a tare da ni shine ga kula da harkokina, zai dinga wanke mutuwa na, zai kai ni ba haya, zai kai ni wurin fitsari, zai je mu dan yawata an mu samu abinci mu ci, an ba mu samu ba sai mu kwanta kuma sai gobe an Allah ya kai mu. Allah na ya kaddare in zo nan kuma na ji mutane na ta faɗa za a yi alheri a yau don himan ka zo a nan. Taimako duk da Allah ya hore aka bani, na gode ma Allah.
When his begging gains him any money, this young man explains that he is able to buy a meal, but all too often he goes to sleep hungry and without any form of shelter. He has sought out the Synagogue Church of All Nations in the hope of getting the assistance he needs just to sustain himself.
Their only means of movement, lines of the physically challenged glide into the church auditorium on makeshift skateboards. Due to their want, other alternatives are few and far between.
They are followed by a woman who tragically crawls along the ground, accompanied by her 5 small children. One cannot begin to imagine how a mother must feel, trapped in such a frustrating and desperate situation.
Led by the Emmanuel TV team, many blind enter the church in single file, holding onto the person in front of them for support, forming a human chain, ready to join a host of others waiting expectantly for something that will make a difference in their world. Their pleas are of desperation and want. Let's listen to them.
My name is Gad Babatunde. I need help for pastor. I have an accident. they cut my 2 legs. So I need money to sponsor myself, and I need wheelchair.
This man said that due to an accident, both his legs have been amputated. He is requesting a wheelchair and financial assistance.
Abin da ina so daki ba ni da abinci, ina da yara 5, mijina ya mutu, babu wanda na basu, ina so keke, ina so kudi.
This woman narrates her story. Her husband has died, leaving her with 5 children to take care of. She needs a wheelchair, accommodation, and money to feed and cater for her family.
We have here 3 trailers of rice, which is 12,750,000. 2, we have transportation, feeding, 10 million. 3, we are going to present you some wheelchair today. The total is 30,750,000.
TB.Joshua announces the provision of 3 trailers of rice, transportation, feeding costs, special gifts and wheelchairs, totaling the sum of 30,750,000 naira, which is the equivalent of $261,000.
3 trailers of rice were especially brought in to meet the needs of the crowds of the physically challenged who came to the Synagogue Church of All Nations that day. Quantities of sacks we can see arriving are enormous, but very necessary if each and every physically challenged person was to receive their very own bag. The provision of food is something no one should be in want of. What a real privilege to be in a position to give.
There were hundreds and hundreds of bags of rice, a gift worth over 10 million naira.
Brand new wheelchairs are also arranged and pushed into the Synagogue Church of All Nations in preparation for those who are in dire need of them.
So we have some wheelchair for you, so please bring them.
As TB.Joshua instructs the wheelchairs to be brought forward and for their new owners to be lifted into them. Just imagine the years of sorrow that have been wiped away in an instant as a sense of dignity and of worth are restored.
What a joy to do things as if Christ were the one doing them. Remember the extreme and unimaginable condition of this boy when he arrived earlier today at the Synagogue Church of All Nations. A smile lightens his face as his hours of rolling his body along the ground have eventually come to an end. He is proudly pushed along in his brand new wheelchair. The prayers of many years are not lost, as today in the lives of many physically challenged, they have, in due time, issued into beauty and glory, as long sought after provision has come.
Those who came to the meeting with no proper form of aid will leave with the essential provision of their very own wheelchair. For those whom we have seen today without the love and support of organizations such as Emmanuel TV, how could their hope ever have been restored?
As the reason for relationship, just as receiving is the reason for a relationship as well. When we give, we receive more of whatever we give. When we give, we are planting seeds that will be multiplied back to us. 'Cause every true
People who were once living lives of ridicule, subjected to crawling, sitting, and dragging themselves along the ground, have found a peace of conscience, ease of heart, and the hope of integration into the society.
For this woman, she will now have the prospect of being able to work and fulfill her role as a mother in the lives of her children.
Truly, Jesus Christ changes lives for good. He is the answer to all fundamental issues of life. Her children, thankful for what God has done in her life, join their mother as she enjoys the increased comfort of her new wheelchair. Each wheelchair that has been given was acquired by Emmanuel TV, intended specifically for this occasion, the meeting of the physically challenged.
The expenses today is 30,750,000. Everybody will go home with a bag of rice and money to take care of you.
TB.Joshua reassured those present that everyone would receive their own bag of rice and financial support to take care of their welfare until the next meeting. As directed by TB.Joshua, the Emmanuel TV team began to hand out the promised cash gifts, starting with those cases that had just been attended to.
God is rich beyond our dreams. They will leave today not only with a new wheelchair, but also with enough finances to set up new businesses, to acquire housing, and provide for the other basic necessities of life.
Rice bags were also carried to where they were sitting, an additional blessing to those who had previously been begging just to eat a single meal.
Envelopes bearing 50,000 naira inside them are held dearly by their recipients. The prospect of a better future now lies in their hands.
Emmanuel TV bags, cheerfully and carefully given to the entire crowd, contain cash gifts to support them until the next physically challenged meeting. What we give for the relief of the poor and the support of God's worship is actually given unto God. God has no farm where he expects us to work for him, or an office where he expects us to help him in checking files. His farm and his office are our fellow brothers. Whatever we do or fail to do to the least of our brothers, that we do unto Christ. He has no hands but our hands to do his work today. He has no help but our help to bring men to his side.
Having received their cash gifts, bags of rice continue to be circulated around the church as the Emmanuel TV team endeavour to make sure everyone goes home with their own sack. To know the Saviour brings great joy, the kind of joy that nothing can destroy. Faces that once wore expressions of sorrow now bear broad smiles. This is a day that many will never forget.
When we give, we receive more of whatever we give. When we give, we are planting seeds that will be multiplied.
TB.Joshua helps a number of physically challenged people as they make their way out of the auditorium, putting love into action and following the footsteps of Christ. Appreciative of the knowledge that given is a rare grace, an opportunity that is not given to all men. Let us ask God to make us one of those rarest souls, leading us to grow in love until it flows to others.